All right, and I'll try and give you a better view. Kind of got my computer at a dangerous angle. So we'll see what we can do here. Okay, so we're actually going to cook our ratatouille in batches, and I'm only repeating this because I just started recording. Ratatouille comes from Nice, France. It's a provincial dish. Okay, that's just for the recording. So we're gonna cook our individual vegetables. We're gonna saute them individually. We're gonna combine them all into a bowl. We're going to put our herbs all together, and then we're gonna put them into a baking dish. And if I was making this, I'm kind of doing it in this pan, so it's easier for me to show you what I'm doing. I might do this in one pan. I would still cook my vegetables individually and put it all together, but I might just use one pan, and I would probably use a big Dutch oven like this that I can go from my cooktop into my oven. But because I'm gonna do it this way, I also wanna give you some other options. So you could use like a pie plate. You might need 2 of these depending on how much vegetable you end up with, or you could just do some kind of oven safe dish. These dishes can't go on the stovetop, so you would need to have your saute pan and an oven safe dish. I'm hoping I can get it all into my pie plate today. All right, so our first step is to saute our onion and garlic, and I went ahead and minced my garlic with a microplane today. I didn't bother doing it with my knife. I took a little shortcut, and that is totally fine. And then how many of you have worked with eggplant before? What have you made with it? Or what have you eaten with it? What are some things? Fried eggplant, eggplant parmesan. This is also used in Middle Eastern cooking. Baba ganoush is from eggplant. It's really a delicious spread. And we are going to try and get some browning and crisping on this, and then we're gonna stew it. And so you can use all of this. This is a smallish. You can get, later in the season, you'll see huge eggplants in the market. But this is a globe eggplant or an Italian eggplant. There's lots of different kinds of eggplant out there. Hoping you all can see what I'm doing here. Trying not to break my computer. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dice this up. I'm not going to peel it. I'm going to leave all the peel on this. Sometimes people peel their eggplants because they think that the peel is a little bitter, but because of the long cooking time, it's going to just break down and be yummy and delicious. Other things that you might see people do, they do have seeds. Yes. So what is an eggplant? Is it a vegetable or a fruit? It's a fruit, excuse me. It's in the same family as tomatoes. It's a nightshade. It grows on a plant that's very similar to a tomato plant. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and dice this. I'm going to get my pan turned up. I had turned it down because I had been cooking my onion for a while. So I'll get this turned up. And I'm working with kind of a smaller cutting board with my cooking situation right here. So your recipe calls for about a medium heat. I'm actually going to turn this up a little higher than medium for my eggplant because eggplant has a lot of water in it. Sometimes you'll see recipes that will tell you to salt your eggplant. So you'll cut it into strips and then you'll salt it and you'll let it set to sort of draw some of that water and some of the bitterness out of it. If you cook it on high enough heat, you're going to be just fine. Okay. All right, so our next ingredients are, I can't see my recipe, but I think it's the peppers, if I'm correct. Someone nod their head. Are they looking at the recipe? What is a pepper? What is a bell pepper? Fruit or vegetable? It's got seeds on the middle. Is everything we're working with today considered a fruit? someone Google whether zucchini is a fruit? Siri said veggie. Oh, it's a fruit. You know why? It has seeds on the middle. It also grows on a vine. So there's lots of savory fruits out there, aren't there? Okay, gonna get this turned up, give it a toss. We are not trying to cook our fruits through at this stage. All we want to do is get some coloring on them, kind of seal in the juices that might be in them. I like to pick my pan up and help me toss my vegetables around. I know that the salt is at the very bottom. I'm going to season as I go. So I'm just going to take that 1 teaspoon of salt and I'm going to kind of divide it. And I'm going to eyeball it a little bit. So I always like to season. Every time I add something to my pan, I'm going to add some seasoning to it. You want to season your individual components so that you get seasoning all the way through. Okay. All right, I'm going to try and get this kind of into a single layer, and I'm going to just let it sit and try and get some color on one side. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and cut up my green bell pepper. So I went ahead and cut my red one already. I've just got it into about a medium dice. And I like to show you, I think I've shown you how I do peppers before, but I'm going to show you again. So I just come down on either side, all sides of the seed, little pocket that's in there. And I just turn it. And then you can cut the very bottom off and use that as well. And then I might come in here if I have some extra of the veining, get all my seeds out. That's where the bitterness is. It also doesn't have the best texture. It kind of has this weird sort of foamy texture that I don't love. And I just kind of pull it out. Okay. And then I'm just going to dice it. What I want are all of my vegetables to be about the same dimension because they're all going to cook together. Okay, what are some of the vegetables that are on your worksheet, or fruits? What are some of the fruits or vegetables on your worksheet that we need to classify? Eggplant. Okay, so we've already determined eggplant's a fruit. What else? Avocado. What's avocado? It has a big giant seed in the middle of it. It is definitely a fruit. I might even be considered a stone fruit. Isn't that a stone? Stone fruits are peaches, apricots. Okay, I'm gonna come back over here, get my pan in shape. Oh, that's nice. I've got some golden brown coloring happening on there. So now, if I had more time, if I wasn't doing this in front of you and we were gonna be here for a really long time together, I would probably do that again and let it caramelize on the other side. I'm gonna go ahead and get it out of my pan now so we can move forward. So remember, my eggplant is not cooked all the way through at this point. And I've got a big bowl here that I am going to just start dumping my ingredients into as they get done. And I've got, look at that beautiful browning that's happening on the bottom of my pan. That's flavor right there, it's deliciousness. Okay. So if you are looking at your recipe at the very top where it says 1/4 cup of olive oil, it says that we are dividing that olive oil. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn my heat down a little bit, and I'm gonna add another tablespoon of olive oil. I used 2 tablespoons to start, and eggplant does soak up oil. So you might put a lot of oil in the pan and then you put your eggplant in the pan and it gets all soaked up and all of a sudden your eggplant seems really dry. It's like mushrooms, they're kind of like sponges. My peppers are going in and I really don't want to cook my peppers too long. I just want to start caramelization on the edges because my peppers will get mushy really fast. Okay. I'm sorry, this is not the best version for you, but okay, so I've got red and green. You could do red and orange, you could do red and yellow, you could do all three. I'm going to season because we're seasoning as we go. I'm just going to toss it around. Okay, so I'm going to let that sit for a minute. All right, what else is on the worksheet? Oh, is that it? Avocado, eggplant. Let me pull it up. Oh, cauliflower. What's cauliflower? Fruit or vegetable? I think cauliflower is a vegetable. What else? What else is on there? Broccoli. Broccoli is a vegetable, right? Yep. Are there any other things that you are questioning whether it's a fruit or vegetable? What's a banana? I don't actually know the answer to that. I've always thought of it as a fruit. Is it a fruit? It is a fruit. So bananas, actually some bananas have seeds in them. The ones that we eat at the store do not have, or the seeds are so tiny that we don't notice them. So are little tiny seeds in there. Okay, so I have a green zucchini. This is small. Sometimes if you've ever grown zucchini in your garden, you know that they can get like ridiculously huge, right? So when they get really big like that, the seeds in them get really bitter and big and they're not quite as delicious. This is a yellow squash. Some people call this a zucchini, but this is actually a squash. So is zucchini, but I'm gonna go ahead and get this diced up. So I'm just gonna do long strips. Okay, and then I'm gonna do strips this way again. I'm trying to keep with my medium dice. I'm about to get my peppers out of the pan. And then I'll get my zucchini in. Zucchini is a wonderful fruit or a vegetable, however you want to think of it. It takes great to grilling, to roasting, but you really want to use kind of a higher heat with it because you want to get some caramelization before it gets mushy. It will get really mushy if you're not careful, if you overcook it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my peppers out of my pan, because I don't want my peppers to get mushy, and they will. I'm going to try and reserve some of that. There's a little bit of oil left in the pan. And you can see I got some of the brown bits up and into my peppers, which means my flavor is going into my dish and it's not staying in the bottom of my pan. Okay. There's a little bit of oil in there. I'm going to add my last tablespoon. I'm going to get my green zucchini into my pan. So sometimes people are making big batches of ratatouille because there's so many vegetables to saute. They might use multiple pans to do this. I think it's nice to try and use one pan, then you only have one pan to wash. And all your flavor is staying all together. Okay. Yeah, totally, but we also juice vegetables. So you can get juice out of any fruit, any vegetable. So I'm just doing the same thing. My medium dice. I need to season my zucchini and squash. I'm gonna get this in there. Okay. And I don't know if any of you are looking at the recipe or not, but you might have noticed that the recipe tells you to put the thyme in with the eggplant. And I didn't do that because I'm gonna do something else with it. I changed my mind and I didn't change my recipe. I'm gonna cut that very end off because it's kind of... All right, I'm almost done with all my chopping. So if I was doing this and I wasn't demonstrating it for you, I'd probably get all my chopping done before I started cooking. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and season. And the last part I'm gonna season are my tomatoes. So I'm gonna save the rest of that. Oh, and I'm getting some nice caramelization happening. And again, I don't want to overcook this at this point because it's going to finish in my oven. They're all gonna sort of braise together gently at about 350 degrees. I turned my oven on 375. When I cook that low in my countertop oven, it tends to take longer. So if you know your oven is a little lower in temperature, you can adjust it by turning it up or turning it down. Okay, I'm almost there. So while this goes, let's talk about the herbs that we're gonna use. So we're gonna use some fresh, my sad looking wilted basil. Got all wilty. We are going to use some fresh rosemary. This is from my garden. It's starting to blossom and bloom. It's gonna have pretty purple flowers on it pretty soon. Some fresh thyme. And since we're using fresh thyme, we're gonna put all of our herbs together for this. And then I need, this is, I have a variegated bay leaf, so that's why my leaves look a little different than the ones you see in the store. So I'm just gonna pull one off. And now I'm gonna make something we call bouquet garni. Sometimes you might see it called a sachet. When it's a sachet, it's tied up in cheesecloth. So, yeah, I'll say it again. Oh, can you really taste? Yeah, you can taste your individual herbs, and we're also gonna finish it with some basil at the end too. So this is going to sort of add some undernotes of flavor. It's not gonna be like that punch in your face, but it's gonna add some complexity to the dish. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna get my zucchini out because I don't want it to become mushy. And now I'm gonna add my tomato paste first before my tomatoes because I like to cook off my tomato paste a little bit. So I need a tablespoon of tomato paste. And I just eyeballed that. I'm just gonna kind of push it around, get it in the oil. And then I went ahead and I processed my tomatoes before you got here. So my recipe says to peel, seed, and chop my tomatoes. What did I do? What is this process called? I peeled them, I cored them, I scored them, I blanched them, I chopped them. Concassé, thank you. This is our tomato concassé. Very French technique. Of course, we're gonna use it in ratatouille. So I'm just gonna bring this all together. I'm definitely gonna season. Tomatoes need a lot of salt, more salt than you need. If you've ever made spaghetti sauce with canned tomatoes, you probably noticed that it needed more salt than you thought. Yes, blanching is definitely one of the steps of concassé. So we blanch and we shock. Okay, so I'm gonna let this go for just a minute while I finish my, my bouquet garni. So I'm gonna take a couple of my very big basil leaves and I'm gonna kind of make a little bed with one, and I'm gonna put my rosemary, my thyme, my bay leaf, and then my other basil leaf right on top. I'm gonna take some kitchen twine and I'm going to wrap it around. I'm gonna make a little bundle. And this just makes it, it's very French technique. It makes it easy to fish it out at the end. You could definitely just drop all of these in and fish out the stems later. All the delicate little thyme leaves are gonna fall off. The rosemary leaves will fall off. But this is just a way for you so you could just grab the whole thing and pull it out, because nobody wants to eat the stem woody part of those herbs. Okay, so I've got that. I've got my tomatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my pan off. Get my tomatoes into the pot with the rest. Okay, I'm gonna put this in my sink. And now I'm just gonna gently sort of toss this all together. Let me see if I can adjust you all. Okay. So toss this all together. I'm hoping this is gonna fit in my pie plate. Look how bright and lots of color. Some people don't do the browning part of their vegetables and they just kind of throw everything in together and saute it and then kind of stew it, which is traditional, but this way you get to have the individual little pieces of each fruit or vegetable, however you want to think of them. I'm going to, these pie plates can hold a lot more than they look like they can hold. I'm going to try and get as much of it in here as I can. Oh yeah, I think it's going to happen. Might be a little overflowing, but I'm just gonna kind of pack it down. I'm gonna add a little black pepper on top. And then I'm gonna nestle my bouquet garni kind of down into the middle here, just like that. And then the last step is we're going to make, and I lost my parchment. Okay, we're gonna make a little parchment lid. This is a traditional French technique for braising. Instead of putting your top on your like Dutch oven or on your pan and putting it in the oven where you start to get that condensation that builds up on the top and it drops in and it ends up more stewing and adding liquid to your dish, which will break down your vegetables more. This is going to allow our vegetables to sort of stay intact and just really gently cook together and flavor each other. And so I'm folding this because I'm gonna make a circle. Okay. So what I did was I folded it in half like a hamburger and then in half like a hot dog. And now I'm doing over like this. If you ever made snowflakes when you were younger. Okay. So now I'm just gonna kind of measure. I'm gonna kind of measure my pan because I want the diameter of my parchment lid to be the diameter of my pie plate. And then I'm also gonna cut the tip off in the center. And this is going to allow some air to escape so that I'm not trapping everything in here. but it's still gonna keep the moisture in, okay? So I've got sort of like that. And I'm just gonna set this on top, kind of press it down, and then this is gonna go into my oven for 30 to 40 minutes, and then it's going to be nice and delicious. I'm actually gonna brush my parchment with a little bit of oil. Does anyone have any questions? Did I answer all the questions on the worksheet? I want a little bit of oil on both sides. Okay. So you could flavor this a lot of different ways. Okay, hang on. Let me get this in the oven and then I'll answer all the questions you all have. Just a second. Okay. What's the questions? What do we have? No questions? Okay, did everyone get all the answers on the worksheet? And if you made the mashed potatoes and you submitted a picture, then you don't need to complete the worksheet. Okay. And so when I pull out my ratatouille, after it's done cooking, I'm gonna finish it with a little more basil when I serve it. And I could serve it as a side dish with some roasted chicken or a piece of fish. I could turn it into like a shakshuka situation and bake some eggs into it. It's a fairly traditional way to serve it, to actually put like medium boiled eggs into it and put it back into the oven and cook it for a little bit longer and then serve it like that. That would be a very French Provençal way to serve it. All right, if you all don't have any more questions for me, you can log off and I will see you tomorrow. Andre, you have a question?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.